Okay, welcome to the Personal Finance Bankruptcy in Trouble presentation lecture. If you do not have it, please make sure that you have the note guide that goes along with today's presentation lecture so that you can take notes and use them as a study tool for upcoming assessments. All right, so when it comes to bankruptcy, bankruptcy is an indicator of a negative financial status. And one of the causes of that is consumers not being able to pay their bills. So why do consumers not pay? There are a number of reasons other than just being delinquent and not being able to pay them because of choice, but there could be some unforeseen circumstances outside of the consumer's control. For example, loss of income. 48% of consumers who are unable to pay their bills are because of unemployment, illness, or other, such as divorce or death. Could possibly be overextension, spending more money than means that are available to cover those debts. Poor money management, emergencies, materialism, need for instant gratification. And then the smaller percentages, defective goods and services, fraudulent use of credit, or other. So as you can see, the significant reasons are loss of income, overextension, defective goods and services. Okay, so when a consumer is in trouble, and the possibility of having to file for bankruptcy is becoming more and more real. Some of those warning signs might be is that you don't know how much that you owe in terms of all of your debts. You often pay your bills late. You get a new loan to pay old loans. That really doesn't help. You're getting a new loan, I mean, you still are owing some money somewhere. You're never truly being able to get yourself out of a financial crisis by just taking out more loans. Pay only the minimum balance due each month. Spend more than 20% of your net income after paying rent or mortgage on debt maintenance. So if you have almost 1/5 of your income going towards debt, you might have an issue. You would have an immediate financial problem if you lost your job, which means you would not be able to survive without that income. And then finally, you're spending more than you earn using your savings account to pay for day-to-day expenses, dipping into those emergency funds, warning signs of trouble. The first steps you want to take when you're looking into a situation like this is, first of all, redo your budget. Trim your expenses. Remember the 20 to 10 rule. 20% of annual net income, 10% of monthly net income. And be realistic about what you can afford. Don't overextend yourself financially. If you cannot afford it, don't buy it. If it is something that is needed, that needs to be purchased on credit, make sure that you can have the realistic means to be able to pay that back. And then you can also contact your creditors. You can inform them of unforeseen circumstances and tell them that you can't pay, but you intend to pay, and when and how much you are going to be able to pay, and then stick to it. You may be able to work out a new payment schedule, and if possible, continue to make the minimum payments. Because remember, creditors, you are an investment to creditors. Therefore, they are going to want to do everything that they can to try and get some of their investment back, even if it is not the full amount. So simply having a conversation with them, alternative procedures could be put in place. You can also go to credit counseling. Outstanding resource for this is the National Foundation for Consumer Credit, or the NFCC. This organization will review your income, help you set up a realistic personal budget if the budget that you have created you've been unable to stick to. It will make contact with your creditors and make arrangements for reduced payments and or bills. It's also going to help you plan for future expenses. And then finally, services depending upon location may be available for no charge or reasonable fee. So even though the majority of these services are available to everybody, some of them might be dependent upon geographical location. Consolidating your debts. This sometimes can be an option in order to get your debt under control. You can do what's called loan consolidation, which means that you take all of your debts, compile them up into one loan, and then pay off of those other debts and be liable only to one party for that one loan consolidation payment. This is best to use only when combined with credit counseling. Don't do it just for the sake of doing it. Make sure that there is some type of advice that has directed you or guided you down this path. Watch out for credit repair companies. They can be it can be a resource that is not necessarily going to get you where you want to go. They offer for-profit counseling, which means that they are making money off of their ability to help you or the service that they're providing you. Offer debt consolidation loans, offer debt counseling. Some advertise that they can erase a poor credit history, which is impossible. Nobody can do that. Your credit history follows you no matter where it is, no matter how you've treated it, no matter how you've built it. And they also claim that they can investigate reputation and performance history before using. So you want to watch out for them. Not to say that they're not an option. They're probably not your best option, but be careful if you are going to consider credit repair companies in order to get your debt under control. Fair debt collection practices. A debt collection agency will contact you if you are delinquent on your payments over a significant period of time. These are businesses that specialize in collecting payment of past due debts. They are hired by businesses after basically they get sick of hounding you in order to make your payments. So these debt collection agencies come in and they indicate to these individuals that these payments must be made. Now, in order for a debt collector to do his or her job legally, a debt collector must inform you in writing of the amount of your debt, the name of the creditor, and the explanation of your right to dispute the debt. And then also, if you dispute the debt collector must give you written proof of that particular debt. Now, fair debt collection practices, there are a number of them, and if any of these are not being used, there might be a reason to question how the debt collector is conducting business. So, bullet number 1, contact you at unusual times or places. Contacting you at home during regular business hours is probably going to be the most common, but if you're receiving phone calls on your cell phone, if you're running into debt collectors when you're out for dinner, things like that, visiting other friends and family, might want to make you raise an eyebrow. Disclose what you owe to anyone but your attorney. So sharing your case with anybody else, unethical practice. Harass you or threaten you. Use false statements. Give false information about you to anyone, which is actually against the law and can be considered slander. Misrepresent the legal status of your debt, as well as engage in any kind of unfair practice, such as trying to collect an amount greater than what you currently owe. When it comes to collecting debt, sometimes the collecting of the debt can go outside of your realm of control. Wage garnishment is one practice. It's a legal procedure which withholds a portion of your earnings for the payment of debt. If you cannot pay the debt based off of your earnings, then the earnings will go directly to your debt before it even gets to you. Wage assignment does not have legal force from a court, as does wage garnishment. It is a legal agreement between a lender and a debtor. It permits lender to collect part of the debtor's wages from an employer if the debtor fails to make regular payments. So another form of wages not making it into your pocket and going towards your debt before you even see them. Employer is not legally compelled to honor a wage assignment arrangement, which means that could be fluid, that could be changed, that could be modified. Also, there's wage attachment and repo or repossession. When it comes to wage attachment, this is if you don't have a job, a lender can get a court order, which means the court is going to order you or direct you before it becomes an illegal act and possibly a warrant for your arrest to pay your debt. You could also reseize some of your property in order to pay off that debt, which leads us into repossession. Repossession normally revolves around items that are considered collateral. So if you buy a car and you're unable to make the debt payments, you might have your car repossessed by the seller. Most common with vehicles and homes. And when it comes to homes, you probably have been exposed to this term known as a foreclosure. All right, let's get into bankruptcy. What is exactly bankruptcy? Okay, so bankruptcy, there are two very common types of bankruptcy that a lot of us may have to file if we ever do get ourselves into a financial crisis. Bankruptcy is what Federal court would consider the process that helps you eliminate legal responsibility for many of your debts or allows you to repay over time under the protection of the bankruptcy court. Now, why do you think the U.S. allows people to file bankruptcy? Well, there's a number of different reasons. Let's look at a few. Number one, how do you file for bankruptcy? Hire an attorney to walk you through the process. Okay, so bankruptcy is a way to keep the economy strong. Maybe strong is the wrong word, but it keeps the economy going by not crushing every possible business owner, job provider within our economy in order to keep people working and keep the backbone of the economy intact. How long does bankruptcy remain on your credit report? 10 years. So after 10 years, the bankruptcy claim is off your report, which means your credit score is probably going to increase as a result. Chapter 7 is one of the bankruptcy chapters that can be filed, also known as liquidation bankruptcy. This is going to remove the responsibility to pay for anything not secured by collateral. This you can keep exempt assets in Chapter 7. It is required, however, that you, as the debtor, have to enroll in credit counseling and debt education. You must also, in terms of filing your Chapter 7 bankruptcy, must provide latest tax return, proof of 6 months of credit counseling, evidence of earnings for the past 60 days, your monthly net income, and a photo ID. And when it comes to Chapter 7 bankruptcy, it can only be filed once every 8 years. So technically, if bankruptcy stays on your record for 10 years, you could file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy twice within that 10-year period. Chapter 13 is the next most common. This allows repayments of debts in installments over a 3 to 5 year period. It allows you to create a repayment plan that is then approved by the court. You keep all of your property as long as you are making the payments. You cannot file if you have obtained bankruptcy discharge in the past 2 to 4 years. Oops. So there are different aspects of these different chapters of bankruptcy, which is the best one to file for and when, if you are someone who is in financial crisis. So let's take a look at that next. Which one is better, Chapter 7 or Chapter 13? Answer? Answer is probably hard to say. It's hard to say. Which one would you consider to be better? It's all going to depend upon each individual's debt situation. In some cases, Chapter 7 might be the better choice. In other cases, Chapter 13 might be the better choice. They all have, each one of these is going to have their niche, so to speak, in bankruptcy court and resurrecting those individuals who have uncontrolled debt. So the result of bankruptcy is that some debts are not removed, and some of those debts may include this list. So we've got child support and alimony, all the way through credit purchases of $11.50 or more, debts you owe from a divorce. Those are not removed. Those will remain even if you do file for bankruptcy, and therefore you are still responsible for making those payments. And that concludes the presentation lecture on bankruptcy. Are you in trouble? So make sure that you go back to revisit any of the slides if you need to in order to get the notes for this particular presentation lecture. And I will see you next time we meet in class.